For a K-pop star, getting canceled online is just part of the job these days. But for some idols, the threat was so much bigger than that. We're talking about being permanently blacklisted by the industry, or even banned from setting foot in South Korea itself. These are the shocking stories of idols whose careers were pushed right to the edge. And we're going to break down not just how it all went down, but where they are now. Stevie, the man banned by a nation. Our first story is probably the most extreme ban in K-pop history. This isn't about being canceled by fans. This is about being barred from your own home country for over 2 decades. This is the story of Stevie, also known as Yoo Sung-joon. Back in the late 90s and early 2000s, Yoo Sung-joon was a megastar. With huge hits like Na 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 and Scissors, he was one of Korea's most loved solo artists. Famous for his killer performances and for publicly promising he would proudly serve his mandatory military duty. But in 2002, just months before his enlistment, he made a decision that would detonate his life. While in the U.S., Yoo gave up his South Korean citizenship and became a naturalized American citizen. The backlash was instant and absolutely brutal. The South Korean government saw it as a deliberate act of desertion to dodge military service, a topic that runs deep in a country that is technically still at war. When he tried to fly back to Korea, he was stopped right at the airport and denied entry. The Ministry of Justice slapped a permanent entry ban on him, arguing that letting a star who dodged his duty return would crush the morale of soldiers and encourage others to do the same. Overnight, one of K-pop's biggest idols became a public enemy, exiled from his own home. For more than a decade, the ban was ironclad. But Yoo never stopped fighting. In 2015, after he turned 38, an age threshold after which military service is typically exempted, he applied for an E-4 visa for overseas Koreans. He was denied. This kicked off a marathon of legal battles against the South Korean consulate in Los Angeles. After losing in lower courts, Yoo scored a major victory in 2019 when South Korea's Supreme Court ruled that the consulate couldn't just deny his visa based on the old 2002 ban without reviewing his case individually. Even after winning another Supreme Court case in November 2023, the door to Korea remained shut. Then, in August 2025, a Seoul court once again ruled in his favor, declaring that refusing him a visa was an unlawful and excessive punishment. The court pointed out that after 23 years, the damage to Yoo's personal rights was greater than the public interest in keeping him out. Despite these repeated wins in court, the government can still appeal, and the Ministry of Justice hasn't officially changed its mind. So as of late 2025, after more than 2 decades and a string of legal victories, Stevie's future is still up in the air, his return home hanging by a thread. While Stevie was exiled by an entire country, our next idols were blacklisted by their own industry. It was an invisible punishment, allegedly orchestrated by one of K-pop's most powerful companies, and their fight for freedom would end up changing the law forever. JYJ, the blacklist that changed the law. The story of JYJ isn't just a K-pop scandal, it's a landmark case. It's about 3 artists who took on the system, paid a huge price, and came out the other side as symbols of reform. JYJ was formed in 2010 by Kim Jae-jun, Park Yoo-chin, and Kim Jun-soo, 3 members who made the bold move to break away from one of the biggest groups in history, SM Entertainment's TVXQ. It all started in 2009 when the trio sued SM, arguing that their 13-year contract was so long and restrictive it was basically a slave contract. They claimed the terms were brutally unfair and left them with no control over their own careers. The court agreed enough to grant them an injunction, which allowed them to work independently, but that was just the start of their real battle. What came next was a quiet, systematic blacklisting from the Korean entertainment world. Even with their massive popularity, JYJ was suddenly shut out of TV broadcasts and music shows. SM Entertainment was accused of using its industry muscle to pressure networks into ignoring the group. Their new songs couldn't get airtime, and their faces disappeared from the shows they used to dominate. A court even ordered SM to pay a fine for every time it was found to be interfering with JYJ's work. The members felt the blacklist personally. Jun-soo talked about filming interviews that mysteriously never aired and having his performances cut from broadcasts. In one painful interview, he said, "At the very least when I have an album out, even if it is just once or twice, I'd like to sing my song on TV. That's all I want, but it's so hard." Their fight got so much attention that politicians had to step in. The situation was seen as so unfair that it led to a new law. In November 2015, the South Korean National Assembly passed what is now famously known as the JYJ Law. This law was created to stop broadcasters from banning artists without a good reason, especially when pressured by powerful agencies. When it passed, JYJ's agency said, "We've fought with the unfair conditions for 7 years, and we're thankful that we weren't alone. We hope that with this amendment, these unjust actions will no longer occur." While the law wasn't a magic wand that fixed everything, it was a massive win. JYJ built their own path, finding huge success in musicals, dramas, solo albums, and world tours. Their struggle pulled back the curtain on the industry's dark power dynamics and created a legal shield for the next generation of artists. JYJ's fight for a level playing field led to real legal change, but the ghost of industry blacklisting didn't exactly vanish. Just a few years later, another star from the same agency would face a similar silent freeze-out after a shocking exit from one of K-pop's most beloved groups. Jessica Jung, the silent treatment. In 2014, the K-pop world was shaken when Jessica Jung, a key member of the undisputed queens of K-pop girls' generation, was suddenly out of the group. In a shocking post on Weibo, Jessica claimed she was being forced out by both the company and her fellow members. SM Entertainment shot back, saying there were growing conflicts between her group activities and her new fashion brand, Blank & Eclair. What happened next was a quiet but vicious fallout. After Jessica left SM Entertainment, her ability to promote as a solo artist in Korea basically vanished. Planned appearances on popular shows like Radio Star were suddenly canceled. She was booked for several shows on SBS, but every single one was pulled at the last minute. The pattern felt hauntingly familiar to what JYJ had gone through. Even though she was a household name, the doors to television seemed to have been slammed shut. For her fans, the blacklist felt obvious. The most telling moment came during a fan meeting. When someone asked if she wanted to perform on music shows, Jessica's answer was heartbreakingly blunt. "I want to go on these music shows very much too. But you know why I can't do it, right?" The message was clear. Some powerful force was keeping her off the stage. The widespread belief was that SM was using its influence to sideline her as a warning to other artists. But Jessica refused to be erased. With her career in Korea blocked, she looked elsewhere. She went to China and competed on the massive reality show Sisters Who Make Waves in 2022, where she triumphantly finished in second place and debuted in a new project group. She poured her energy into her fashion line, Blank & Eclair, building it into a global brand. Although the company faced a major lawsuit in 2021 over an unpaid loan, the matter was reportedly resolved. Today, Jessica is a successful author, entrepreneur, and global influencer who built an empire on her own terms, proving that a blacklist in one country couldn't stop her from shining everywhere else. The JYJ law was supposed to stop these kinds of backroom deals, but a decade later the problem is still around. In 2025, a new controversy involving another EXO member and SM Entertainment showed that old habits die hard. Schumann, the band that shows nothing has changed. Fast forward to March 2025. 10 years after the JYJ law was passed, a familiar story popped up, this time starring Schumann from the powerhouse group EXO. After leaving SM Entertainment in 2023 for solo work with a new agency, INB 100, founded by his bandmate Baekhyun, Schumann was getting ready for a solo comeback. That's when his new label, INB 100, dropped a bombshell statement. They claimed that the national broadcaster, KBS, was blocking Schumann from appearing on its biggest music show, Music Bank. The agency alleged that KBS had been ignoring their calls and that they were told off the record that Schumann couldn't appear on shows that also featured other SM Entertainment artists. INB 100's statement was a direct accusation of a modern-day blacklist. They argued it was deeply unjust that KBS, a public broadcasting company, has made this decision based solely on one company's stance. They were worried it would set a precedent where their artists would be shut out whenever SM artists were also promoting. KBS quickly denied everything, calling the claims unfounded and insisting they were in ongoing communication with Schumann's agency. But the public fight sparked a fierce debate over whether the JYJ law actually had any power. Critics argued that giant agencies could still use their influence to subtly pressure broadcasters, who depend on a steady flow of A-list idols. The incident with Schumann suggests that while a law might exist on paper, the industry's power games are still very much in play, and artists who leave big companies still face a tough fight for a fair shot. From being exiled by a country to being ghosted by an industry, these idols had their careers pushed to the absolute limit. Their stories expose the incredible pressure and shady power dynamics that run the K-pop world, where one wrong move can get you practically erased. While some fought back and won in court, others had to build entirely new careers from scratch. Their resilience just goes to show that even when the system tries to count you out, true talent and grit can find a way to break through. Which of these stories surprised you the most? And you think the JYJ law has actually made a real difference? Let us know what you think down in the comments. If you found this story fascinating, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you never miss our next deep dive into K-pop's biggest secrets.